So we're going to be distorting faces with Photoshop in this video, just to give you a few ideas of how you could respond to Francis Bacon, creating something like this. Okay, I am going to go to File and New. And what I want to do is open this blank file. I've got A4 here. If it's not coming up for you, these are sort of template sizes. You can go to print and you should find A4 listed here. And that is the file we're going to open up. So I'm going to open that and I'm going to say create. Okay, so here is my base file. It's white. It's also locked. If you look on the right here, this is the first layer. And we're going to need to create a few layers. If you just think of them as pieces of paper stacked on top of each other, you should be able to understand this quite easily. In order to do anything to the background, we need to double click to unlock it. So, and it asks you some questions. Ignore them for now and just press OK. Right, what we need to do is get our first photograph up there. Now, we're doing a Francis Bacon sort of response. So we need our own photos. We go to File, and what we're going to do is place embedded, because that will mean it will understand that it's a separate file, and we are going to have it always linked to this particular Photoshop document. Okay, so here it comes, and it comes with these kind of grabbers on it, which allow you to just size it. Let's just keep it the size that of the A4 document. And we're going to press return or enter, and that sort of accepts it. As you'll see, it's created a new layer over here, which we can double click on the title, and we can give it a title. And that will help, because you might end up with lots of different layers, and it always helps to name them and be organized. Now you can see over here on the right in the layer icon, you can see that what it is as well, which is great, very helpful, but it's a smart object. We're not really interested in smart objects. We need to what's called rasterize it in order to be able to work with it. So we're going to right click. If your computer isn't set up for right clicking, you need to do that in the settings. Because the other thing you could do perhaps is go to layer and then rasterize down here. So you just want to rasterize the layer, and it just makes it into a normal one. Okay, next thing we're going to do is we want to blend two photographs together. Let's say we want to do that. So we are going to go again to place embedded, and we're going to find our other photo. So navigate to where it is. I'm going to choose one where she's slightly to the side, and I'm going to place that, and you will see that it has created another layer, and we're going to double click and rename that, so that and click off it so that it accepts that change. And again, we need to rasterize it. So I'm going to right click on the actual layer. So I get all of these options. I go right down here to the bottom, and it's called rasterize layer. Just makes it easier for us to work with. Again, if you don't have a right click function, you go to layer and rasterize. Though it's not letting me have it here because, of course, we've just rasterized it. Right, so you've got essentially two pieces of paper here that are on top of each other. And one of the things that you can do is make the top bit of paper transparent a little bit in different ways. So we're clicked on that top layer. Of course, I could drag that top layer down and have the other Amelia on top. I'm going to have her second one on top because that's the one I named number 2. And I'm going to make it a little bit transparent. So up here where it says normal, while I'm clicked on this, so this second one is selected, the top one. I'm going to click normal on that little arrow. See where it was here? Just here. I'm going to, as the more I fiddle around with these, the more I can explore different ways of making it transparent. Just that top layer, so that we can see through to the layer below. And you basically have to decide what would work for you. This one you can see more of the one on top. You've basically just got a whole load of different things. So you have to decide what looks more Francis Baconish. So some of these won't really work for you. They won't do anything for this particular purpose. You could go with multiply and then you could move it around a bit. We could go with that one. That looks quite Francis Baconish to me. And if I've got my move tool, which is up on the left at the very top of our tools bar here on the left, if I've got that selected, I can just click on this front top layer and move it around to see kind of what might work. I can also press, if I'm on a PC, Control and T at the same time to get these handles back again. If you can't work that out, you would be just going to edit transform. You have all these different types of transform as well. Some of them are like skew, so you're sort of playing with the perspective a bit there, but let's not go too complicated just yet. Let us just move this around. Perhaps I want it bigger. Do I want two noses? Not really. But his images, Francis Bacon's images, sometimes hard to understand. He's distorted them a lot. So it's up to you to kind of play a little bit. If you make a mistake, so I'm pressing return here to accept that. Let's see what it looks like without the bottom one underneath. Go back to normal. Really, all I've done, I haven't changed her a lot. So I might want to do something else, which is possibly play with the liquify tool. So to do that, I'm selected on the layer that I want to manipulate or change. And I go up here to filter, and I've got liquify there as an option. Just before we do that, I'll show you the filter gallery because there are so many different ones you can choose. You can do all sorts of things here. There's artistic category, colored pencil, for example, and it changes it and it lets you see in real time what that would change it to. We're not interested in those so much today. Brush strokes we got. And you can change the different parameters here. So stroke length, let's try a different one. Poster edges, edge intensity, edge thickness, and you can see it's making subtle or not so subtle changes all the way along. Rough pastel, watercolor. I mean, a lot of these end up making your image look quite naff, so I'm just letting you know they're there, but I don't want you to use those. Diffuse glow, we've got sketches, ones that make it look sort of like a graphic pen. Takes a bit of a while to load. Make it like a stamp. Not sure why it's gone blue there. It's just showing you what it would look like if you were to use that. But we're not going to do any of those. Or let's just see what texture. You can even make it like stained glass, patchwork, that kind of thing. We're not going to do any of those though. We are going to the filter, which is the liquify tool. So let's go and play with that. So I'm bringing it up now. Remember, anything we're doing is only applying to that top layer that we had. And you can even show mesh. Don't bother with that for now. Show guides. And you can play with the size of your brush. Up here with the settings. Oh, I don't seem to be able to. I wonder why. Pin edges. It's basically a matter of exploring. So here the AI has detected that there's an eye there. And I can sort of fiddle around with it. That one's gone larger. Could I drag some of these? We are distorting here. So what can I do with the shape of her face? Eye distance, make them nearer or further away. I can tilt them. This is all AI picking up on what the content is of the photo. Nose height, draws it up. All of these changes are really quite subtle because it is expecting you to want to be a magazine editor or something where you're just tweaking little bits, whereas we want it for artistic reasons, to see if we can get much more dramatic results. So if you were using your Apple Pen with Procreate on your iPad, for example, you would be able to get much more dramatic results than this one, but it's quite good. Because we will also be combining this with this image underneath. So you can make it thin, you can make it fat, mouth height, and we don't want to have mask options, and we want to show backdrop. Okay, and why can't we move the size? That's what maybe we're on the wrong brush. Yes, you can warp things. Now I can see that my brush there is absolutely huge and I do not want it that huge. So I'm going to make it smaller. And the way I do that is by pressing the square closed brackets button a lot. And I can go bigger by pressing the right closed brackets and smaller by pressing the left closed brackets. So what happens when I drag it out, and you know how sometimes he's got the nose kind of doing something weird. Maybe I make my brush a bit smaller. Sorry, Amelia, for doing this to you. But it's a matter of choosing your brush. Right now, you can sort of distort, basically. So have some fun with that, but not too much fun. Like, I think Francis Bacon doesn't do that kind of thing. So if you did something and you wanted to change it, you want to find the undo button or go Control Z. And that should bring it back to the last move that you just did. The pucker tool. Let's see what the pucker tool does. It's probably, I need to make my brush size a bit bigger. So when I pucker something, I'm kind of squeezing it inwards and pinching it. So that's a puckered eye. And then over here, I've got the bloat tool, which is the opposite of pucker. So I can make my brush a bit bigger. Can I do anything with this? See, as I'm just literally pressing my mouse down and making it bloat. Poor Amelia. Could I maybe do something over here? What happens if I make my brush really large? And then I'm just pushing my mouse down. Maybe I could do something to the ear. I'm still on the bloat tool. Disfigure it. Push left tool. Should sort of push things to the left. The face tool. Now, what is that? I think it affects the whole face. So it's a matter of exploring, but you've constantly got to keep in mind what looks like Francis Bacon. There's a smooth tool. Reconstruct should let you kind of reconstruct it to how it was. Okay, I don't like that, so I'm going to take that off. Control Z. If you're on a Mac or an iPad, it's a different button. It's Command Z. Okay, so let's say we're happy with that. Looks a bit like the BFG. So you can see we've got that there. And it's gone back to normal now, so we need to blend it with our previous image. Perhaps we could use the darken one, perhaps lighten, screen. I tend to think for this exercise that lighten or multiply or darken are the best. And the idea is that you would print this in your book and show, and then maybe paint from it. So use it as your inspiration to paint. Okay, so let's say I'm going to move this around. If I want to move the one underneath around, I have to, I don't want it on auto select. So I want the move tool, but I don't want auto select. I just want it to move the one. Now I'm moving the one underneath. Can you see? And that's because I'm selected on Amelia 1 layer. Don't really want two mouths, so I kind of want to join them together. Maybe I want to make it a bit larger, so I'm going to go Control T or Edit Transform. that one underneath. I don't really want 4 eyes, but I do want something weird going on with the eyes. Maybe I don't want it so large. Put that back there. So let's say I'm happy with that, and I'm going to paint that as my outcome. If you go to File, Save As, which you should be doing as soon as you start this, what you do is if you go to File, Save As, you're going to save it as a Photoshop file. So Amelia Bacon response. And you want .psd there because that is a Photoshop file, and that will mean that you just say OK to that you are able to go back and open that file with the layers still there. But if you just wanted to print this as a JPEG, which you do because you want to print it, you are going to go to File and then Export. A JPEG or a PNG is fine. So you can go Quick Export As, and it will say, okay, and I've already given it a name and it knows that. So I'm going to just say save and make sure it's in the right place. You've got to be organized with your work, and say everything for year 10 is in a certain folder. So when I go to that folder, where would it be? Not there. I can't remember where I saved it now. Is it here? Is it here? Yes, here we are. I can either open this or this here, Amelia Bacon response. That should just be the flattened image. So we can open that up and then we can go to print and it will print that, and you can paint from it or paint on top of it or whatever you want to do for your response. Now, of course, looking at Bacon's images, let's have a look at some of them. This is not really the way that he is working. He's working more with his paintbrush that is doing these marks that can convey some kind of idea of movement. With the nose here, you can see. What about, the eye socket? He's really delineated that eye socket there with tone. He's simplified shapes. These are the photos he drew these ones from. So this one here looks like he's got sort of two blended together, doesn't it? It just feels like the person is moving and there is movement conveyed. This one is an interesting one. This is his final piece, but this actually was from a realistic photo that somebody had been wounded in the First World War, and his whole face blown out. So he's got a very striking deformity of the face, which Francis Bacon has then painted. So see how you get on with your experiments in Photoshop. Just get familiar with using 2 layers and blending them together and distorting them with the liquify tool. But if you did not like Photoshop, you could always try pressing your face against a window and getting someone to take a photograph from the other side, for example, as this person has done here. And you may want to, or you could press yourself against a scanner. Close your eyes, though, if you're going to scan yourself. But also have a look at Francis Bacon's colour palette, because that way, using his kind of dark reds and greens and the white dry brush there and some darks, you can get an effect like him.